Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dallar, and today we'll be taking a look at Paladins in BFA. Now I know this is not the class you wanted. Most of you guys really want to see what Warriors are all about, but I can't show you Warriors. I love you guys and I treat you guys like my favorite kid, but I'm just not convinced that this is what Fury Warrior is going to end up being like once BFA comes out. I'm still waiting for Blizzard to give them changes. It'll be like me covering the Unholy Death Knight changes prior to them getting amazing changes that they got in BFA. So I'm honestly convinced that Fury is not finished yet, and I'm waiting for more stuff to come out. So I'll probably shelf those guys towards the end, if not literally the last class out of them all, just because I'm just not convinced. Fury feels terrible to play. The other specs don't feel quite as bad. I just don't think Fury will come out like this at the end of the expansion. Anyway, without further ado, enjoy the Red Pally, Holy Pally, and Proud Pally video. Paladins, the bane of Rogue's existence as far as Legion. I have always kind of envied this class. I felt like playing Outlaw. Every single Proud Pally, Holy Pally, Retribution Paladin was a hard counter to Outlaw, since all I have is physical damage and all of them have a bop. So it was really almost impossible, near impossible, to get some solid damage in a Paladin as Outlaw. Testing them out in BFA, all of them feel pretty great to play. And yes, I actually did play all three specs. I played the tank, I played the Holy, and the Red. I did not want to do the same thing with Shamans, where I kind of just bypassed rest of Shaman completely, just ignoring them and kind of just going on to the DPS specs. Because in case you guys might enjoy maybe playing some PvP or PvE, and you were thinking maybe get a class that can do just about everything, I did want to showcase you a little bit and explain you what it felt like to play all these classes in BFA. I guess I just want to be accurate, and I didn't want to make a video where I've just decided, oh, I don't know played the specialization. Yeah, let's not do it, because it's a great time to explore different classes. It's a great time to explore different specs, especially when you're trying to figure out what you're going to play in BFA. But let's take a first look at Retribution Paladin, which I think is a specialization of Paladin most of you play. Retribution are a good specialization in BFA. They feel pretty powerful. They don't feel quite as tanky as some of the other classes. For example, when leveling as my Death Knight, I felt like as a DPS spec, I could pull a hell of a lot more mobs than a Retribution Paladin. But a Retribution Paladin has a little bit of range to their abilities, so I guess if you want to do a little bit of kiting, all your abilities hit pretty hard. So there's that to the Red Pally. I felt like the talents were pretty cool, as the way Retribution Paladin is built up right now in BFA, your rotation is pretty simple. First of all, Blizzard gave just about every single ability from Judgment, Blades of Justice, and Crusader, 2 charges, all generate at least 1 holy power. Blades of Justice, of course, generates 2, so you never run out of them. And for finishers, Templar's Verdict and Divine Storm are still part of a cookie cutter butter build. So based on that, like Enhancement Shaman, you are more or less very similar. But then your talents are very interesting. Some of the talents that I really enjoyed. One was, I think, called Inquisition. Think of it as a slice and dice type of buff. You build up the common points, or I guess in this case the holy power, and then you spend it for a buff on yourself. The buff duration increases based on how much holy power you spend. So it's almost like instead of just going spending holy power and then just, unleashing it in a finisher, now you get yourself a buff, so your other finishers will be a little stronger. I find Inquisition kind of fun because I felt like there was something that was a medium for me to translate myself towards as a rogue player, all about building common points and maintaining buffs like Slice and Dice, towards a Paladin where I'm building the holy power and maintaining a Slice and Dice version for Paladins. I thought that talent was really cool, and it added me a little bit of that prep work, which I'm so used to whenever I play rogue. The artifact weapon also became a talent. It is really now an AoE based ability, generates 5 holy power, so that's really cool. Again, I enjoyed that one because of the prep work that it came with. But then there was this talent that I found super weird because it worked off of your auto attacks. If anybody remembers back in Classic Vanilla, or if you played Nostarius for any reason, not that I would know or anything, a lot of abilities worked off of your auto attacks. So this ability of Zeal, not the same as the one you have on live, transforms your Judgment so then your next auto attacks happen a little bit faster, I think like 50% faster, and they add a little bit extra holy power. Now, I know that's not anything crazy, but I just found that super interesting. I thought that it was awesome, playing off of my auto attacks, and I just stuck with that talent and never changed it, just because I feel like it's kind of fun. It's not like some crazy talent where you have to use it. You just set it and forget it, and then you have a nice passive with it. But what's cool about it is it kind of just talks a bit about BFA as an expansion and how they're treating a lot of the melee. Most of the melee classes in BFA right now do most of their damage from auto attacks. So it makes me feel that BFA almost is an expansion to prepare everybody for Classic WoW, GCD changes and all. Past that, the specialization felt great to play. I got the build that I wanted, and I kind of just went into islands back to back to back. I've really been enjoying islands, and I might make videos separately on islands alone. On islands, I feel like this is where you can really learn how a specialization is supposed to be played, because a lot of the mobs there are not your random quest mobs. A lot of them are actually hard-hitting mobs with certain mechanics, like basic stuff like Shockwave, or it has a cast that'll one-shot you if you don't interrupt it, or maybe they'll get an AoE buff that they have to cast, and you got to run out of it before they finish the cast, or anything in the assortment. And then of course there's the extra ads, and of course then there's the alliance player NPCs kind of going on there. So it feels like it's a great place to test out all these classes, because you can either engage with player NPCs that function kind of like players, which is the closest thing we can really get towards like PvP combat that's outside of just like skirmishes and level 110 duels, which don't really give, I feel like, the game that much of like realistic justice. But Retribution Paladin felt awesome to play. I did notice, again, it's a squishy specialization when it comes to you trying to deal with a single mob or multiple mobs, so that felt a little bit weird. But when it comes to playing against the player NPCs, once I got my burst going, oh my goodness, you feel like a glass cannon. And you kind of are. Out of all the play classes, you take a little bit more damage than others, but you also dish out a lot more damage, and I guess you have the self-healing to yourself as well. Then of course, Hand of Freedom, Blessing of Protection, Bubble, Shield of Vengeance, so you have a lot of defensives on top of that layered over. Of course, a lot of the abilities deal ranged damage, so that's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying Retribution Paladin, and so far I feel like on the islands, it felt like probably the best specialization once I engaged the player NPCs, because they kind of start acting like players, they start running away, they start peeling for each other, and they start healing one another, and it's really, really interesting how it all works out. Then we got the tank spec. Now, I'm not somebody who knows a lot about tanks. I don't really play a lot of tanks in Legion right now. I'm not somebody who's good at it, and I feel like that whole gameplay is very, very different. So what can I say about Protection Paladin tanks? I enjoyed Vengeance Demon Hunter tanks. I enjoyed the Demon Hunter tank spec a lot because it felt like a Demon Hunter. It felt like a DPS version, but with a few tank abilities. So it felt very, very fast-paced, high in amount of damage, and the playstyle felt very, very similar. With Protection, on the other hand, you feel like a tank. You feel like a sword and board warrior, because it's the only specialization that I've really had any contact with in Legion is a Protection warrior. So you feel very similar to a Protection warrior. But then what I really liked about it is the capability to heal your allies. You have this ability that usually you would use as a self-heal, and if you want to talent into it, you can heal friendlies for a ton of health every few seconds whenever the cooldown is up. And overall, the rest of the time, you feel like a standard tank with a sword and board with a lot of abilities in order to increase your damage, decrease the damage taken, increase healing you do. So it felt very, very interesting. It felt like a tank that can heal themselves. So that sounds like probably the best tank combination, a tank class that doesn't need a healer. And if you were to add a healer in a group, that's just even more healing for the rest of the party. It feels very, very self-sustainable, and I very much enjoyed it. I never felt like I was really in trouble in terms of the damage. I felt like I always had my health way above. There's so many tools on demand in terms of like GCD stuff that's been going on. So many tools on demand in order to just reduce how much damage you're taking, and it's very, very reactive, which I really, really enjoy. I usually like to go into fights without DBM or any other add-ons that tell me exactly how the fight goes on, and I like to react to the fight as it happens. I find it a lot more fun. Eventually, I learned the fights like the back of my hand, so everything is predictable, but for the first few times when I have a class that's very reactive, and if I have a class that I can play without having to learn the fight like the back of my hand through and through, front to back, it feels a lot more fun because it allows me as a player to just try to see how I can handle it, try to see if I can play under pressure, and Tank Paladin really felt really, really good as a primarily defensive class specialization with some awesome off-healing capability and very much reactionary playstyle, which definitely suits me. And then we got Holy, and I'm so sorry if my nerdgasm just leaks all over the video for the rest of the time, but I enjoyed the living hell out of Holy. I have never known a healer that could be this much fun. I don't really heal. I started playing World of Warcraft back as a Resto Druid, but that's been eons since. I've been grinding out my rogue since then. I haven't really been playing healer whatsoever. I am a DPS at heart. If you can try to get me to heal now at this point, and even if I used to heal way back when I started back in Cataclysm, and that was a long, long time ago, you just can't sit me down and say, all right, little Johnny, go back to healing, because I have no idea how I'm supposed to be doing it. It's a whole nother ball game. That's just for PvE. I can't even imagine doing that anymore. in PvP these days. It's just so foreign to me nowadays. I feel like to be able to be a healer, you need to be able to be a smart human being. You have to have a high amount of intellect. I'm just a dumbass who can push buttons and do damage. I can make a one-shot macro, and that's really about as far as I go. So I need a specialization that works for me. Holy Paladin isn't something that I felt that any dumbass can pick up. But this dumbass that making a video on BFA definitely could. And that felt awesome. That felt awesome that it was a specialization that I actually could pick up and start healing with. It felt pretty comfortable, and yeah, we ran into some issues with the dungeons. Yeah, the tank died at one point, even though it really wasn't my fault. No, I don't think. But it felt so great. I have the talent of melee wings, which is the same talent in PvP for melee wings for Holy Paladin. Holy Paladins with the honor talents, you can grab yourself melee wings where your melee abilities like Crusade, Judgment, and more start doing heals to everybody around you. And that felt great to be able to just run into a dungeon, run into a boss, or run into a pack of adds, and as everybody's going in to do damage, when everybody's health is kind of getting low, I just go in and join the fray, start doing damage, healing everybody in my party, and that on its own felt awesome. Just to be able to throw down the spells, forget about self-healing or healing others with long casts, you just get to run in and start meleeing the boss, meleeing the adds, and you get to help out your party, and that felt awesome. It's kind of awesome to just see a Holy Paladin that's usually just a caster. You're sitting in the back casting spells, to now have even more tools than they have in Legion to run into the fray and start fighting everybody around them, to just really take it to the enemy. Usually as a healer, you're just kind of waiting for everybody else to take out the boss, take out the adds. Now you can really have a lot more self-control. You can just choose, okay, I don't like this ad, I don't like this boss, I don't like this player hanging out in PvP. I'm gonna go eliminate him, be right back. I'm gonna throw away my healing spells for quite a moment and just go one-shot him, mess him up, and I'll come back in a bit, guys. Okay, I'll get your heals in a second, hold your horses, let me just do my thing. And that felt awesome. It felt honestly liberating as a healer, and I very much enjoyed the playstyle. It's still very much a healer. Holy Paladins are all about healing, but that capability to go into melee and start playing almost like a Retribution Paladin all of a sudden while you're healing friendlies, it was just so much fun. I never knew I could find a healer so enjoyable, and I thought Disciple Priest was already fun as is. Speaking about priests, I really should check them out on BFA at this point. As you can tell, I was actually enjoying all three specializations of Paladin. I enjoyed Retribution. I very much enjoyed Holy, and I thought Protection was actually something worth playing. And for this reason alone, mostly because of Holy and how much fun it was, I think I might make Paladin as my top 5 classes to play. And it's not really a class that I've been really paying attention to much in Legion so far, but in BFA they feel just so great, and for me it's almost like a brand new experience. Definitely not something I would throw away my rogue for by any measure. I'm still going to be a rogue main, but out of all the classes I want to level for BFA, maybe even as allied races, maybe if Zandalari can be paladins, which would be perfect, then I definitely want to get a paladin up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you are even thinking about Paladins, whether it's Holy, Protection, or Red, and if you think that BFA Paladins are going to be any fun whatsoever, especially if you're somebody who's maining a Paladin right now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I very much hope you enjoyed this video. I'll try to get the Warrior video out as soon as I possibly can, but I still do really want to hold off until we have more updates on Warriors and more changes to come in before I make a finalist video letting you guys know exactly what it feels like to play my Warrior right now. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in another video.